Like that, same E and C. If they tell we have highest placement ratio, we have the top people from this batch, so we don't want anybody, we don't care for anybody, we are independent. No, you cannot do that. Okay, everybody is dependent on each other. So like that, in organization, so if you look at the structure of your organization, what you can see basically, there is input, there is process, and there is output, this which we have seen several times. Okay, so input is the managerial knowledge, you know the stakeholders interest, capital, human resource, all these are the inputs. And the process is the managerial functions. Okay, what the managers do: planning, organizing, staffing, leading, controlling, because of which the output comes. So output can be product, service, profit, satisfaction to the stakeholders, incentives to the ones who are supporting you, and all these things. So these are the outputs. So now you cannot tell that yes, our organization is functioning properly, we have the good inputs, process is going fine, output is fine, but this output has to be bought by somebody, no? Okay, that means you are linked to the society. Whatever you produce, it has to go out, and then people have to buy it. Okay, then comes the marketing, then comes the branding things. Okay, then comes the service related things. So people have to buy, people have to rebuy your product. Say if you are manufacturing soap or something, people bought it once and next time they are not buying your soap. So you want to see that there is brand loyalty, people are buying it again and again. And with that money what that comes in, that again you are pumping inside. Okay, pumping inside because you need infrastructure. Okay, you need some developmental things. Some things have spoiled, you have to spend money to make it proper, you need to train your people, you need to increase the salaries, you need to hire better people. So only these things will increase your production, increase your productivity, increase your efficiency, effectiveness, whatever. So things go out, people buy it, people pump in money, and then it is going inside your system, and this is how it works. Okay, so this is your systems approach to management. Correct is look at the system as a whole. Don't just look at the snapshots and take decisions, because things can be misleading. Okay, and remember, you're working in a society. Society has to buy your product. Okay, it has to go out to the society. People have to buy it. Then that money that comes in, then you divide into your expenditure. What is the profit and all that? From that money has to be pumped in. And if you look at MIT, once money is pumped in, infrastructure is needed, furniture is needed, new lab comes with some expenditure. So there is always some expenditure involved, so it has to be put into that. Then again, this output, take any firm, for example, whatever you can think of: shoe, laptop, mobile, you know water bottle, plastic industry, whatever. People buy, money comes in, and again new machineries. Okay, automation, all these things comes with a cost. People have to be trained quite often. Others, people will become outdated. So all this comes with a cost. With all these things, your productivity increases. You're producing better things at less cost, at better quality. So people may buy more, so more money will pump in. Okay, so this is how it goes. So organization exists in a society. There is input, there is process, there is output. Then things go out, people have to buy it, then again money comes in, and this is the cycle that goes on. So this is your systems approach to management. Okay, so if this is asked for 3 or 4 marks, you are expected to draw this figure and explain this and explain this in your own words. Okay, input, process, output, and then society and external environment, then pumping in again. Okay. Yeah, so now I don't know if you have seen the materials that has been sent to you in the first class. I had sent you all materials. I don't know if you have gone through that or not. Just go through that. There is a small case, okay, which I'll explain to you now, that will help you understand uh, what is this systems approach to management, and it will throw some lights on the principles of management. Okay, if you remember, there are 14 principles. I'm talking about those. Okay, so the small story goes like this. See, there was a person called, say, Raju. Okay, he was a contract labor. He was a carpenter, but he was a contract labor. So contract labor in the sense, you search for job through a contractor. The contractor gets some contracts, and then he sends you to those places to work. Okay, for example, you are constructing AB6, for example. So you need some 100 people to work here. or 100 laborers. So you don't go in search of this laborer who is going to come. You catch hold of a contractor and tell him we need 100 people. So he has links. Okay, he will talk to those people and he will send you here. Okay, so that's how contract labor works. So this Raju was a carpenter and he was a contract labor. So he had touch with a contractor who, when gets work, tells Raju, yes, you have some work today. Maybe there is some maintenance work. So Raju is sent to Parkala today. Okay, fine. Next day, there is no guarantee that Raju has work there. So either he may not have work, or next day he may tell, today you have to go to say Suratkal. I have got a contract there, go there. Next day again no guarantee. But again next day if work is remaining, again he may send to same place. Or the very next day he may tell you have to go to, you know, say somewhere near somewhere internal near Mulki, somewhere inside you have to go. So if these kind of things are happening, so Raju doesn't know daily he has to carry tiffin or not. Maybe sometimes there is a provision for food available nearby, or he has to carry tiffin all the time. He doesn't know the basic facilities are available or not, and what time he will come back home. Because if his work is in Parkala, evening he can come. If he's in Suratkal or somewhere, he has to wait for the transport which the contractor provides, and then he has to come. So some kind of uncertain life, this contract labor things. Okay, so Raju was working for say for example 10 years. He was working like this. He was a skilled carpenter. During his free time, suppose when no work is there, he would make small tables and chairs. Okay, and then sell it to the neighboring places, neighboring hotels or some kind of small things. He used to sell them, and they like his quality. So he had a good reputation. That's a good carpenter. So after working for 10 years under this contractor, he thinks, yes, now I have saved some money by so much of hard work. Let me start something of my own. So Raju decides that he is going to rent a small shop for 3000 rupees. Okay, and he thinks he will start his functioning from there. Okay, so he takes the help of his wife, and they find that they have some investment, some amount they have saved. So they buy a small machinery, say sawing machine. Otherwise you have to saw by hand. Now with machine you can do that, and you can cut the wood through that machine. So with whatever savings he starts that, and then he starts making tables and chairs. So now Raju himself has to get raw materials. He himself has to take the dimensions. He himself has to cut. Himself has to make everything. And after the product is finished, he himself has to go to market and try to sell it and negotiate the price and all that. So he thinks I better hire more people. So he talks to his friends Ram and Sham, okay, who are also contract laborers, and then he gives them a proposal. See, now when you are working, we get daily say 400 rupees. If the contractor gives us work daily, 400 rupees we are getting, but there is no guarantee of job. If you work under me, I will give you 350 assured amount every day. Will you work with me? So they give a thought and they think 400 we are getting, but the daily job is not guaranteed. Plus, we don't know where we have to go. Each day, different places. Problem of food, transport, and coming back late, all that. Instead, 50 rupees less, but at least we have daily employment. Monthly, this turns out to be better. So they join with him. Okay, so now Raju was there, his wife was helping, Ram and Sham are there. So now Raju delegates the work. Ram is responsible for making only the tables. Sham is responsible for making only the chairs. Okay, so instead of each person involving in everything, uh, Ram is producing chairs now, Sham is producing tables, and then they find that they need one more person who can buy raw materials and get. So they take one more person, their friend, by giving him some kind of offer, and this person is dealing with all that raw materials, and the finished good he sells to the market. So like this slowly Raju, his business is expanding. People are happy. They are getting. Plus, he tells now our business has expanded. So I'll give you some incentives. For every table you produce, I'll give you 50 rupees extra. For every chair you produce, I'll give you 50 rupees extra. So now Ram and Sham are motivated. Okay, so if they are making two or three tables or chairs per day, now for everything they make, they get 50 rupees extra. So they are motivated to put in more efforts, more hours. Plus, you know sales are also going up, so things are moving smoothly. But you know the neighboring area is saturated now. So then they hire one more person to get contracts from other neighboring cities. So one more person, so business is developing, so now they need more space, so they get more space, pay more, produce more, things are going on. Then one day they find that in a neighboring place one engineering college is coming up. Okay, so Raju thinks, if I can get contract of that engineering college, it will be good for me. So he goes and talks to them and tells, see, I am a carpenter, I make tables, chair, I make this kind of furniture, I have good reputation. Uh, can I get your contracts? So they say, see, what you are making is for household, your quality is different. But for college students, you need, robust one. There will be rough and tough handling. The design is different. mm, you know it has to be durable, not like every 6 months you have to change. Can you do that? It will says, trust me, I can do that. He gives, shows some sample, they're happy, then he gets its contract, then his business flourishes, and it goes on like this. Okay, so if you look at this story, this is how organizations expand. Start with something, then things happen, then based on your reputation, your quality, your commitment to the clients, okay, things happen. But there will be some challenges also. Now that person who was hired for buying raw materials tells, see, fuel prices have increased, okay, so I need some more money, so he has to pump more money in the business. Okay, then there may be some other problems. Electricity use is more now, so that comes with certain cost. Now, if you produce more, then you need a place to store it. Okay, so there needs to be some space for that. So like this, expenses increase, but at the same time, your profit also increase. So whatever money he gets, he has to pump in now for different things. Okay, employee salary, infrastructure development, maintenance of the machines, raw material prices have increased. He has to negotiate with the supplier. So like this is how businesses happen and businesses flourish. Now, if you think about this, if you first look at this story from the principles of management, you will see that you know he was believing in division of labor. Instead of one person making everything, he made different teams. You make teams, you make tables, you make chairs, so allowing them to specialize. And then you can see the incentive principle also. For producing everything extra, he was giving them incentive. That was motivating them. Okay, so like that, if you think in detail, you will find some more principles here. Okay, and if you look at this from the systems approach to management point of view, you can see there is input, process, output. It goes to the society. He has to, sell it to the society. So all his quality, reputation, commitment, um, the cost factors come into picture. Then society has to buy it. Then with that money, he can pump in and he can develop and flourish. Okay, so the same story, I have sent it to you. Read it once, and below that story, there are some principles also which are followed in this case. So sometimes in your assignments or sectionals, we have asked the same story. Okay, and the same questions were asked. What are the principles of management followed here, or whatever? So you should be able to write. Okay, so now next we will look into something known as management by objectives. One second. Yeah. Yeah, so in the last class we were discussing about different types of plans and all that. At that time we had discussed about objectives. Okay, objectives are certain end results towards which we work. Okay, so we had discussed about quantifiable and non-quantifiable objectives. And that time I had told you, when that relevant doubt was asked, in the next class we'll discuss about that in depth and how it is applied. So this is the concept. It's called management by objectives. Okay, see here, I told you important figure. This is the figure that is usually asked, management by objectives. This is the third important figure out of 6 in your syllabus. Usually this is asked for 2 or 3 marks in your sessionals if it is asked in your test. Okay, sessionals. So you are supposed to draw this figure and something is asked along with this that you have to explain. For final exam you get this for 4 or 5 marks. You'll have to draw and explain. In the recent Jan exam we had asked about this, explain the process of MBO, and I think some case was given, you had to answer that. Okay, so if I'll take you through this chapter now to tell what is important. Okay, one is this process of MBO. Sometimes it is asked, explain the process. Okay, then there is something called key result areas. This is very important, 2 or 3 marks. Explain 1 or 2 key result areas in management by objectives. So you should be able to write marketing, innovation, productivity, profitability, whatever, and important figure. Okay, and then sometimes this is as give examples for verifiable and non-verifiable objectives. So I'll come to that. Okay, just let me tell you the important questions. Then sometimes things are asked, what are the benefits and drawbacks of management by objectives? Yes, that's all. That's the end of this chapter. Very important, very easy. So start with the okay, see, management by objectives, it talks about your performance appraisal, it talks about the short term objectives, and it talks about the long term planning. I'll tell you what it is. Okay, so these are the key terms in this: performance appraisal, short term objectives, and long term planning. If you look at the definition, if you look at the second definition, then this is the method whereby managers and employees, okay, your boss and the subordinate, define objectives for every department, project, or person and use them to monitor subsequent performance. So this performance appraisal is important here. See, in basic terms, what happens is the boss and the subordinate sit together and then they set the objectives for the department or for that person for a certain period of time, and at the end of that period it is seen, it is checked whether you have met that objective or not. If you have met the objectives, you get some incentive, performance appraisal, you get better things. If it is not met, then there is a chance you can be penalized or you may not get the incentive. As simple as that. So the main terms here are, these objectives are set by the manager and the subordinate for a certain period of time, and at the end of that period it is checked whether you met this objective or not. Okay, so for this reason we tell give verifiable objective so that we can check whether you have met that objective or not. Okay, I'll come to that. This is the simple definition. Now I'll take you to this figure and I'll give you one example. Okay, so if you correctly listen to this example, whatever is there in this figure is there in this example. Later you relate this example with this figure and learn this figure. Okay, we should, this can be asked for 2, 3, always this is asked to study this from this chapter. So very simple things, if you understand this example, you can relate with this figure easily. Okay, so I'll start with the example. See, what happens is, if you look at my case here, okay, we are judged for our performance from, Jan to December. Okay, we have this academic year, and not academic year, this calendar year, for which we set objectives. Okay, and if you meet the objectives, we get some benefit. If you don't meet the objective, we can be penalized. And again, these objectives are recycled. Now let us see what happens. See, every April my boss calls me. Okay, like this, he calls everybody, my HOD, head of the department. He calls me and tells, yes, now tell me what are the objectives you are going to set for the next year. Let's keep it as April to March. Okay, forget about the calendar year. From this April to next March, what are your objectives? Tell me. I'm noting it down. So he notes down. So I tell him, my objective is to get 6-pack abs this time. My objective is to learn swimming. My objective is to learn dancing. So his reaction will be, Fine. See, that is your personal objective. I'm not interested in it. I am talking about organizational objective. What is the objective you have set for here in the working premises? Oh, then I tell, okay, sir. Yeah, yeah, got it. Um, I will publish Scopus indexed papers this year. So he'll tell how many. I want figure, quantify it. So I'll tell I will publish 5 papers. So he will tell, do you think it's possible 5 papers in this one academic year? Give me a realistic figure. Don't simply bloat things. So then I'll tell, okay, sir, I'll publish one. So he will write here. Okay, this person will publish 1 paper in this year. Or he may tell, one is too less. Give me something big. It will be challenging. So I'll tell, okay, sir, two. So he will write two. So what you will see here is there is some negotiation. Okay, he's not letting you set some unrealistic or very narrow objective. He's telling something. It should be challenging. So he notes down. Do papers. Then what is your next objective? Then I may tell, sir, I am planning to start 3 new subjects this time. So I may tell, give me realistic. Don't simply talk all this three. Is it possible to start three? Then I'll start one, sir. Okay. We will start 1 new subject, 1 new course this year. It is noted down. Another objective, depending on how many he wants. Okay, so he may ask another, at least 3 you have to give. Give me one more objective. Then I'll tell, sir, I'll guide 2 student projects this year. He may tell, 2 is very less. You have full academic year, thousands of students. Guide something more. Then I'll tell, I'll guide 3. No, 3. You guide 5. Let me see, you can do it. So he writes, this person will guide 5 student projects this year. So if not more, if this is okay, this is documented. Okay, then he calls the next person. So like this, each person's objectives are set. The boss and the subordinates sit together, and in this key result areas objectives are set. Okay, now at the end of that year, this is taken back, and then he says, you told you will publish 2 Scopus index papers this year. Did you do it? Yes, sir, I have done 4. Oh, excellent. Show me, is it published? No, sir, it is accepted. No, I told about published. Show me either it is published or not. It is just accepted, it's not counted. You told it is going to be published. Yes, sir, only 3 are published. Okay, good. 3 are published. So I promised 2, I got 3. Okay, some incentives. Okay. Or I promised 2, I got 2. Okay, objective is met. I promised 2, I got 1. Okay, partially met. Okay, what is the next objective you set? So next objective I said that I will start 1 new subject this year. Did you do it? Sir, I wanted to do it, sir, but that board of studies, that syllabus got forget about that. Did you start or no? No, sir, no. Okay, mark. It's written. He has not started this. Okay, fine. Not met. Objective not met. We are not worried about what happened is that. Did you do or not? No. Okay, fine. What is the third objective you said? Third objective is I'll guide 5 students project. Did you do it? Sir, I did, sir, but that whatever. Sir, did you do this 5 or no? No, sir, only 4. Okay, show me the proof. Okay, fine. So, okay, only 4. So based on this, this person will be getting some incentives or whatever. So this is management by objectives in one time. Now the boss, he had called a second faculty last year. What was his objective? He told, I'll present 5 papers in international conferences. He'll check whether it is done or not. Okay, I will get some collaboration with foreign university, met or not. I will get some research funding, met or not. Okay, then next faculty, you told you will start some cultural committee. It is done or not? You told you will organize some pro show with some this thing. Is it done or not? Then another objective. It's done like this. Okay, but met or not, you get points. Now, what is the advantage here for the boss? The boss, he exactly knows who is working on what. Okay, if you look at the first person, he was talking only about academics. Okay, the second person was talking about research papers, conference, funding, and all that. The third person was talking about cultural things. Okay, and so advantage for the boss is if someone tells from the university, send some 5 people, there is a research workshop, we need 5 people. So he will not send this cultural oriented people. He will send the research oriented people. If from university it comes, we need 5 people for Utsav. So he will not send this researcher and this academic oriented person. He will send this cultural oriented person. Okay, so the boss knows who is doing what. Plus the boss has got some this thing, no, targets that he pushes down here. Your department should publish 25 papers. Your department should start 2 3 new courses. Your department should conduct a cultural event. So he has these objectives. He puts across to different people here. So he knows who is working or not, and his target is met when our target is met. Okay, and if it is met, we get incentive, otherwise penalized and recycle. Okay, so there is some weakness of this management by objective also. See, one benefit is, since the objectives are set, you know what you have to do. Okay, now since I have promised that I will publish this many papers, I will attend this many conferences, whatever. So that is running in the back of my mind. When I'm simply watching some Netflix movie, this will run in my mind. Oh, I had promised this, I have to do. So there is something motivation for me to work. If I do, I can, meet this target. I'll get better performance appraisal. So that is a motivation factor. If you have not set these objectives, you will be like sleepwalking. You don't know what you are doing. There is no tension in your head. Oh, next class is tomorrow afternoon, morning I'll prepare now. Let me just relax and watch this movie. Nothing is there. Okay, but these objectives will push you to do something. That is one thing. Okay, one disadvantage is, see, you must have seen when you start the semester every time, everybody will aim for 9.5 CGPA. This time I want 9.5 CGPA. At any cost, I'll do it. I am totally motivated. After first 2 days of classes, you'll find this subject I think I'll clear next time only. This subject I may, if I get even C grade, it is great for me. Oh, this is another problem subject. In this, if I get D also is enough. So then at the end of 1 week, you decide this time 6.5 CGPA all clear is enough for me. Next time I will smash it. Next time I'll get 9.5. You see what happens. Okay, like that I set some objectives, but after that I got some other work. Okay, maybe some family commitments or something else has come up, and then now I feel, even if I put my best efforts, I cannot meet these objectives. So why break the head? See, I promised I'll publish 5 papers, for example. Some work came in my way, 2 3 months I have wasted. So now I feel, even if I put all my efforts, I cannot make 5. I'll make only 4, and still get penalized because I have not met the target. Instead, let me leave it this year. Let me enjoy. Next year I'll do correctly. So there is this kind of chance where you may lose. People may lose motivation. Okay, then there is another chance that you may feel you are deliberately given more target. You wanted to publish 2 papers, which is in your capacity, but the boss says no, you have to publish 4. Go for it. And that is putting additional burden, and then you may lose everything. That is also one disadvantage here. Okay. Another disadvantage is people may deliberately set lower target so that they look like heroes by achieving everything. See, for example, let me tell you, I already have uh, 2 acceptance for next year. My 2 research papers are accepted for publishing in 2 good journals, but it will be published in 2022. Okay, so now this April, when I have to give my target, what I will do? I will not tell that 2 are accepted, which will come next year. I'll simply, one more acceptance I may get this week. Okay, so I know that I will get 3 papers next year. So this time I will tell. So next year I will publish only 1 paper. You may tell not 1, you have to do 2. Okay, I'll tell okay sir, 2 I will try. My papers are already accepted, but I will not show that. Okay, and I'll tell I'll publish 2, and next year I would have published 3. And it looks like I have surpassed the objectives. Excellent, hard working. But actually my objectives are met. Actually I should have promised more and tried to put best efforts. But if I promise now that I'm going to do this, that, but I'm not able to do, I may be penalized. So I'll deliberately set low targets and try to, achieve it and tell that I have surpassed that. So this is one disadvantage. People may deliberately set lower targets so that whatever they achieve, it looks, bloated. So this is one disadvantage. Another disadvantage is lot of time and paperwork is required. Okay, now the boss noted down my objectives. He has to give me one copy of that. Okay, it has to be recorded in the department. It has to be recorded in the academic section. Okay, in faculty file it has to go. It has to go to the university, and then again next year you have to take it back and compare and see. So a lot of work is involved. Okay, so some advantages, some disadvantages, but mostly if you focus on disadvantages, I'm sorry, if you focus on advantages, this is a very effective system to monitor your performance. If no objectives are set, people will not know what to do. I will not know how to measure this employee. Okay, but if I have set objectives with him, the boss knows how to measure this employee's performance. So I'll check with this objective. You told so many things. Did you meet that or no? And in sometimes mid-year review is called to make sure that you are in the right path. Okay, in some maybe June, July, August, these files are taken and again it is checked. Are you in the right track or not? What is happening? Okay, so this is your management way objectives. So keeping this example in mind, let us take some 5 minutes and connect it with this figure. Okay, you will find this out. It is easy. Now coming to the key result areas, I told you when the boss asked me, I told I will do 6 packs, this, that. He told no, give me in organizational context. So these are the key result areas which we usually discuss about in business. Okay, in corporate world, these key result areas are this: market standing, innovation, productivity, profitability, performance and attitude, public responsibility, service, quality. So you are usually asked to set your objectives in these areas. Okay, your personal objectives we are not interested. Organizational objectives should be in these key result areas. So you should know 2 3 key result areas like product, service, market standing, innovation, productivity, managerial performance and development, like this. Okay, now whatever we saw, if you put that in simple 4 lines, okay, process of management by objectives. Setting preliminary objectives at the top. Okay, the at institute level some objectives are set and that is pushed on to the HOD. I told you HOD's objectives has to be met through our performance. Okay, so then he clearly tells us what we have to do. You do in admin, you do in academics, you do in co-curricular activities, and then our objectives are set, and then if it is met, fine, otherwise it is again recycled. So this is simple process of MBO. So look at this in this definition. Just you should know what is this. This one, performance appraisal word should come in the definition. Okay, and then it emphasizes on performance appraisal, short-term objectives, long-term planning. This helps you, vision. Our vision, we want to be world leaders in whatever. So these things will help you. We want to be the top 10 in the world. So to get the ranking, you need so much of paper, so many subjects to be handled and all those things. Okay, so with our objectives, when everybody is synchronizing, our more papers will be published, more better ranking will happen, more courses will be introduced that will help us in ranking. Diverse courses are taught here, so diverse student pool that will help in the ranking, and we'll be the world leaders in 2025. Okay, this is the process what we discussed. This is the figure that you should know, and this is your verifiable and non-verifiable objectives. Like I told you, I'll publish papers. How many? Okay, so you should know. If non-verifiable objective is to make a reasonable profit, verifiable is okay, reasonable profit of 12%. Okay, to improve productivity, we will improve productivity this year. How much? By 5%. So anything without any numerical is non-verifiable objective, but when you tell verifiable, it should be measurable at the end of that period. Okay, yes, you can have a look at this later. What are the benefits and what are the weaknesses of MBO. So at this point, let me take your attendance. Yeah, now we will look at some strategic planning tools. Again, very important. One of this will come for your exams always. There are several tools to develop strategy, but in your syllabus you have 4. Okay, something called critical question analysis, something called SWOT analysis followed by TOWS matrix, then business portfolio analysis, and then Porter's model. So we will look at two today. Okay, we'll look at critical question analysis. See, this is a tool that helps you make your strategy. Okay, like where you want to be in 4 or 5 years time applies to the entire organization. So these are some questions that the businesses ask themselves, the results of which gives them the direction. See, for example, MIT asks questions to itself. Okay, who are we? What we are doing? The answers drive the business. For example, what is our business? See, if you look at your table around now, you may be having some water bottles with you. Okay, either Pearl Pet or Tupperware or some other brand. I don't think anyone will have a glass bottle right now nearby. Okay, once upon a time, only glass bottles were there for your Pepsi, Coke, or for anything. Okay, so these glass bottle manufacturers, they saw that lot of trouble is happening. Okay, so once when they had this brainstorming session, this critical question analysis, they asked themselves, what is our business? So the answer was, we are glass bottle manufacturers, we are this, we are that, so many answers. So one answer was, we are liquid container makers. So this question defined everything. Okay, it changed the shape of the industry. So the question was, if we are if we are liquid container makers, why that container has to be made only with bottle? Why not steel? Why not platinum? Why not gold? Like this, so many things. Then why not plastic? Yes, this looks good. If you have plastic bottles, transportation is easy, recycling is easy. People can use, reuse is easy. You buy Pepsi and next day fill water and come. Okay, you can keep it in your bag. It won't leak. It won't break. If it drops also, it will just lose its shape, but it will not break. Okay, so many advantages. If it was glass bottle, it may break in your bag. When you keep on your table, it may fall and break. It may injure others. Transportation is difficult. You cannot pile up tray on tray because anything can happen. So much of confusion. So when this answer was, when we are liquid container makers, it defined an entire industry. Okay, then you have this plastic total industry, Pearl Pet and whatever, Tupperware, Milton, and n number of things. Okay, so this is critical question analysis. Okay, one of the things, what is our business? So if you answer this correctly, this can define your business in a new way. If you ask this question to MIT, what is our business? If you can answer it in the right way, that reflects our philosophy, that will reflect our attitude, approach. Okay, who are our customers? Usually business ask this to themselves. This can drive their business. Who are our customers? Are our customers only students? Are our customers middle aged people? Are our customers retired people? Okay, only adults. So these kind of things will answer your business. Who are our customers? Our customers are usually students. For example, if you are a laptop making company, okay, so then you can think of, okay, we will make robust laptops. They use our laptops for playing games, okay, online games. So we should have a better graphic card. We should have a slot for attaching a external RAM or whatever external memory. We should have a slot. So many things. If your answer is, our customers are usually corporate employees, so they may not need this gaming thing. They need something to download some software, high-end software. So we should provide provision for that. They need Skype meetings, so we should have this camera and inbuilt mic or whatever. So many these kind of things you will think about. If your answer is, our customers are only retired people, then your answer will be, approach will be different. So from time to time, you should revisit these things. Who are our customers? So that will help you define your business. See, what do our customers want? Okay, our customers, we have a customer base. What are they looking for? They're looking at quality, they are looking at exclusiveness, they are looking at value for money. So this will drive your business. If you are Maruti, what do our customers want? Kitna deti hai? People are worried about mileage. Okay, and little bit of looks, aesthetics, people are happy. If you are Benz, okay, people will not worry about the petrol thing, mileage no problem, but it should look posh. Okay, what different criteria, what do your customers want? Okay, so if you're a FMCG, I mean fast moving consumer goods like your toothpaste or soap or something, what do our customers want? If you're selling toothpaste, our customers want the toothpaste to last longer. Okay, how much you brush, whatever, how many times you brush doesn't matter, but it should last for 1 month. Then only you'll be happy. Okay, so what? How can we do that? Okay, how much will our customers buy and at what price? Okay, suppose you are manufacturing Maggie or some noodles or whatever. Okay, how much our customers are buying? Are they buying it for a whole month or they're buying it weekly wise? And what is the price they want? Okay, they are happy with price below 10 rupees or below 20 rupees is fine with them. If you reduce it to 10 rupees, are they buying more? Are they buying in bulk? Okay, these kind of things that will help you define your business. See, do you wish to be a product leader? See, there are two things: product leader and market follower. Okay, market leader is one who jumps in and who has who drives other in who drives that industry. Like your Apple or something you can take. They are pioneers. They are market leaders. They come with new models, new change, new design. Don't care for others. Then there are market followers. Okay, who will wait for others to do something and then looking at the sales or looking at the feedback, try to incorporate it in their system and then come back. See, both are good. Okay, you cannot tell that market follower is bad. They are copying others and then coming in. Product leader is good. Once you come with new things, you can sell and capture the market. See, both has its advantages and disadvantages. Okay, when you are a product leader, you come out with something. The market is open for you. You can have monopoly for a certain amount of time. And if you're a market follower, you can see that product leader launched it. There was some problem. There was backlash. We will rectify it, and then we will enter and capture the market. So both has its advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so companies can take a call for themselves. Do we wish to be a product leader or we are happy with being market follower? The last question here is, do we wish to develop our own new products? Or the answer is, should we outsource? Okay, so you manufacture mobiles. Okay, should I manufacture the headphones also in my company itself? See, my expertise making mobile. Okay, so I'll focus on that. So should I manufacture the headphones also? Should I manufacture the mobile covers and sell? Because everyone who buys a mobile will buy a mobile cover. So lucrative market is there. So why mobile companies sometimes don't do it? Because that's another setup totally. Instead, we'll just collaborate with someone. Someone you are making laptop, someone you are making mobile covers, join with us. You are good in making headphones, you give your headphones to us. We'll sell it with our brand. Okay, sometimes see, initially when laptops were launched, only laptops were sold. Maybe you were kids that time, 1 or 2 year, or maybe before, you would have seen that there was no concept of bag and all coming with laptop. Just like your TV, how they sell TV, they sell just TV like that. Okay, so like that laptops were sold, and then that concept came. Okay, bag should come with laptop. So now companies know that anyone who buys laptop will buy a laptop bag. Okay, so they can give it with that their laptop itself, but they don't want to do it. Okay, we are good expert in laptop. We'll make laptops. Okay, let someone else make this bag and we'll have a tie up and we'll sell it with our product, or let them buy it from outside. We'll not break our head. Okay, so this is the answer for this. Do we wish to develop our own things or should we outsource, or what to do? So these are some questions that help you in strategic planning. So you are stuck somewhere. Now you are thinking of redevelopment. You want to expand. You're looking at some expansion strategies. So what are the tools what are the tools that will help you in this? One is critical question analysis. When as a team you sit down and ask some critical questions, and that answers can define your business. Like what is our business? Who are our customers? How much are they buying? At what cost? Okay, should we be product leader or we should be market leader? I mean market follower, or should we develop everything by ourselves, or should we outsource certain things? So this is how one tool helps you in strategic planning. Okay, fine. Then the another tool is SWOT analysis. This will take long time, so let me take you to the last strategy and then we will stop for today. So in the next class we can do SWOT analysis and business portfolio analysis. So in this strategic planning tools, we saw critical question analysis. Now we will look at 3 competitive strategies given by Porter. Okay, again in this recent exam, this question was asked, not in Jan, in December, during offline exams, this question was asked. 3 generic strategies by Porter, 3 marks. Okay, there are 3 strategies here. You have to just explain with example and you get 3 marks in your pocket. Okay, one strategy Porter says is you can think of overall cost leadership. See, what is the meaning of cost leadership? Cost leadership means in your product segment, you are charging very less. That is the meaning of cost leader. Say there are say 5 mobile companies of same category. Okay, same product category, but one charges less. So that is called cost leadership. See, you know that this strategy is there, but everybody cannot do it. Why? Let's see. Okay, everybody cannot do it because this comes with certain cost. Okay, you are charging less in that market segment and selling products. All cannot do. A startup company, suppose you are starting a watch company, you cannot sell at 300 because that's their sole business, that's their only business. But you have multiple businesses like Tata. You have so many things. So when you are launching Timex, you can sell at low price because if some loss occurs here, you can pump your money through other businesses. Okay, so that is the advantage and disadvantage of cost leadership. So you can charge less in that segment, get more sales, capture the market, everything is fine. But if it backfires, you should have some other things to support your business. Suppose you are a startup, you have only one product there, then you're thinking we'll go with overall cost leadership, we'll charge less and capture the market. But if it doesn't happen, okay, you can be in trouble. But for companies that have multiple businesses, this is very helpful. Okay, by keeping the cost low, the organization is able to sell more and make a profit. Okay, so this strategy exists. You can use this sometime. Okay, overall cost leadership. Now, if you look at differentiation strategy, this is the second one. Okay, here what happens is you are selling your product as a standout. Okay, your product is offering something which competitors don't have. Okay, some kind of exclusiveness. You are standing out in the crowd. See, for example, watch is a watch. So it shows the same time in the whatever. But why people go for Rolex or Rado or whatever? Okay, because when you have that, you're out from the crowd. Okay, you stand out from the crowd. See, this usually comes with a cost. Okay, so some companies go for differentiation strategy. We will give something which will be very exclusive. Only these people will have it, but we'll charge more. If people want, they'll buy. See, for example, car is a car. Okay, so that doesn't mean that everybody should have a Nano. See, there are some things with it. Imagine, everybody in this college comes with Nano. Register also has a Nano. VC also comes with Nano. Okay, VC comes with a big car. It looks good. Okay, so like the differentiation, they may want to stand out from the crowd. Like that. If you look at these film stars or whatever, no, they will not wear this what others have. Some kind of exclusive things. Okay, that is your differentiation strategy, standing out from the crowd, and it comes with a cost. Okay, that's what you must have seen, luxury branding. Okay, some kind of companies charging heavily because if you have that product, you are out from the crowd. Okay, some people may want to do that. They want money. They want to buy the same T-shirt. They don't want to buy the same T-shirt that the security guard is also buying. Okay, from Big Bazaar, a multi-millionaire is buying that. Security guard also buying and wearing it. They may not like it. They have money. They'll go abroad and buy from Zara or I don't know wherever. Okay, differentiation. It works sometimes. Okay, then the last strategy Porter says is what you can think of is your focus strategy. Okay, as the name suggests, in this you are focusing on something. Focusing on what? Focusing on a unique customer segment. Okay, you are catering to the needs of that segment and you are very exclusive there. See, for example, Fisher Price. Many of you must have used toys when you are growing up, Fisher Price. Okay, see, what is the advantage? See, they can come to any business, but they're focused only on this kid segment. And parents are happy to buy it because slightly more cost is more but durable. Okay, when you buy it for first child, you can use it for second child and third. Okay, okay, you can use it for your second child and you can give it to someone else after that. And you know that there is no harmful chemical involved. There are no sharp edges. Even if it falls, it will not break. It will work the way it should work for a long time. So people will buy it even though it is slightly expensive. So that is your focus strategy. You're focusing on a certain category. For example, if you look at this Longines watch or something, they target this page 3 females. Okay, you must have seen Aishwarya Rai was the brand ambassador for this. It's kindly jewel studded or something costly, but only few people will have it. Okay, if you look at the Sabyasachi saris, or Manish Malhotra designs or whatever, this kind of thing. They're focusing only on this elite cream class, and they sell it to them and make money. So when the celebrity wears that for Filmfare Awards or for something, only it looks exclusive. Only that person has that. Okay, focus strategy, but comes with a price. Okay, you are making it only for Shah Rukh Khan, and you cannot sell it for 5,000. Okay, you are charging say 12 lakhs for this suit boot. Okay, fine. It's only for him. Okay, with proper measurement and whatever looks elegant or like that. That is your focus strategy. So this is one tool that will help you in strategic planning. Okay, so when you are thinking we are going to, we'll have a meeting today, we'll decide what we should do for next 5 years, how we should go about our business. You can think this: should we go for overall cost leadership, or should we go for differentiation strategy, or should we look at focus strategy? What to do? So this is one of the things that will help you in your decision making. Yeah. So at this point, any doubts? Do I have to answer any questions at this point? If not, we can call it a day. We can meet on Monday. No doubts? I hope you people are there. Maybe
Yes,
you
sir.
are there. No good.
Yes, sir. No doubt.
Yes, good. So then, if anything is there, you can message me. I will reply. Otherwise, we'll see in the next class. Okay. Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.